This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
And boom, there we are. We're live. Welcome back to the Pop Culture Podcast. This week we have an amazing guest. The very talented Carl Crew is with us. Thanks for coming on, Carl.
My pleasure, man.
You are an actor, filmmaker, writer, and collector, and sideshow historian. Is that pretty accurate? You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, among other things. But
among other things.
Yeah. I grew up in a theatrical troupe when I was like in 7th grade till I was like 20 in San Francisco, and I started studying for film, and then I moved down with everyone in our class. We moved to Hollywood, and I was down here about 6 months before I got my first lead role in a movie called Blood Diner.
Yep.
Which Lionsgate just put out on Blu-ray, and they did a great job with all of us still alive. You know, this is 87. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it's an infamous film in the horror community. I really liked it. Directed by Jackie Kong, who kind of disappeared. She directed just a few movies and disappeared and went into real estate. Why did she disappear from directing films?
The Underachievers, which Rick Burke's the co-star of Blood Diner, we were both in. We had a little role. We got Taft-Hartley, and it was with all these stars like Barbara Carrera and Garrett Morris and all these people.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but she never made anything after that, and although she'd been trying, so whatever. I mean, I ended up making films with her husband for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
We did. I grew up in the midnight movie theaters of San Francisco, so Eraserhead, Pink Flamingos, everything crazy. So I did a tribute to Pink Flamingos called Gross Out. And the whole movie was just designed to make people walk out of the theater, just throw up and walk out, That's the only intention of it. And it played for 10 years in the theaters. My name's not on it. Yeah, I wrote it, produced it. I didn't put my name on it.
Wow.
But I got great reviews, man. Kevin Thomas, LA Times, called it thunderingly, gleefully tasteless. Yeah. But it wasn't what I was about, so I didn't, next. So, but I did the Jeffrey Dahmer film. And I remember the last time I was in Milwaukee, I was doing Milwaukee's Talking, the TV show.
Yeah.
And that reporter, I was actually interviewed in front of Jeffrey Dahmer's door. Yeah. And before the building was torn down. And I'm the only one that can say that Jeffrey Dahmer saw my film in prison before he was murdered.
Oh, wow.
And no one else can say that.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that, because we later on we did a Maury Povich back when it was before, You're the Father, back when shot in New York, and all the family members of the victims were there, and it was like the Attack Carl Crews show.
Oh yeah,
which I love because I'm a debater, but anyway,
my uncle
archived that on the Jeffrey Dahmer The Secret Life page on Facebook. But the reporter that came on during the Milwaukee's Talking, she came on that, and she turned like night and day, like really snappy and gross. And yeah, it was. I loved it. I got slapped. You Jeffrey Dahmer #2. Like it was amazing. But after that, I was involved in a number of different projects. But I started the California Institute of Abnormal Arts, and we've been doing that for 26 years. And it's a live venue with a museum, and it's all about maximalism. I mean, forget it if you're minimalist. Who cares? Like. You got to be over the top, man. You want to get recognized. You want to be people remember you. When we first opened here, we were totally illegal. We had a rubber brick wall on hinges, right, 10 feet tall, with a Brady Bunch fireplace, fake one. And if you knew how to pass through the shadow, you got in. It looked like you walked through a wall. It was the secret entrance to the CIA. Yeah, and we were just doing more business than anyone else, any illegal clubs, and so we got shut down. And then we opened up in almost a year later, and we've been open for 26 years legally. Yeah. But it was about putting on regular bands, but putting on the weirdest performance art between the two that you ever could see. People would walk out here like, what did I just see? even know. You know? It was so funny. But we started doing freak shows, and they call me the Barnum of Burbank Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have my top hat and everything. And so we had all the freak shows from America come by here, Coney Island, from Florida, you know, all over the place, and they perform here for many years. And we did some really cool ones, like Slimenstra Hyman from Guar.
Mm-hmm.
Guar. She was the glitter goddess. Oh no, she was Slimenstra from Girly Freak Show. We did that for 5 years, and it was amazing. It was like so over the top. She would throw a bolt of electricity out of her face, 1,000,000 volts at the end of every show.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a showstopper, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a Tesla coil, but who cares? You're like, wow, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I just started working with a lot of circus people, and we developed a collection of oddities. We have a museum here.
Yep.
And,
yeah, it's on my bucket list. I want to visit. It is on my bucket list. I grew up traveling sideshows. My dad was a magician.
Oh,
well,
cool.
My parents were magicians. So my summers were spent traveling.
What was your dad's name?
Fred Jurgensen. His stage name was Kai Jurgens.
Very cool. We work with the Magic Castle a lot. We've done many magic shows here.
Yeah.
And I love that. I go up there when I can. And I actually met Carl Ballantine up there. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
From McHale's Navy. Gruber. Hey. Yep. I didn't know he was a vaudevillian magician. You know, I just, our names are Carl. So we sat at the bar and roared with laughter for like an hour. And he died a couple months after. He was 96. But what an amazing guy. Wow. It was amazing. Yeah. So, well, I love the magic. I love all this stuff. But we have 3 dead bodies here from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
We have a dead clown. See, now what I'm missing, didn't tell you, is I used to be a mortician. I lived in a mortuary for almost 5 years. Oh. And that's where I met my business partner from the club. Years later, we had the 2 student apartments above the mortuary. We were apprentice embalmers. And like years later, we got together down here and we opened up this club with dead bodies. Figured that out. I have no idea. But yeah, that came in really handy when I did the Dahmer film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the memory of all that stuff. And
imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but I worked with a very bizarre, the weirdest thing I've ever worked with. I shouldn't call it a thing. Her is Shay St. John. And, Shay St. John.
Very familiar.
She's in a witness protection program right now. And my friend Eric is the one who brought her over here. He was a brilliant editor. This is back in the day before the technology. It was like he would do stuff and it would render for like 3 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
And he was just crazy, man. He was a maximalist, and that's what I am too. I love that. But he met her in an art colony and he brought her over here. Do you know Shay? You've seen Shay stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, she has a wig mask on. I never saw her face in 10 years. No one ever did. And she was in a wheelchair, and she had her arms and legs amputated, but she did not want prosthetics. So she used mannequin arms and legs. Mm-hmm. It was like, I was in horror and roaring with laughter for 10 years. And so my friend died in 2010, and he actually drank himself to death. And it was really sad. He was such a brilliant guy. And everyone said, "Oh, R.I.P. Eric, R.I.P. Shay." I'm like, what? I work with the bull of this. Like, they're not the same person. And then I realized what happened. And I made a documentary called Shay St. John Trigger Happy. And it's got like 150,000 hits on it now on YouTube. It's only 13 minutes long, but you'll see the real story of what happened. Vice magazine just came out with a big article about Shay. And they interviewed me a little bit for that. She's got fan clubs all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
But I tell the real story. So anyway, yeah, I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, that's
fine.
great.
That's fine. Yeah. I got a picture here. Say Shay St. John. I'm going to share. There we go.
Oh, yeah. That's her wig mask. That's when she was wheeled around in the Hollywood Hills. And yeah, I have 2 tribute sites for her on Facebook. I have Pop Shay St. John and Shay St. John Couture. And it's all my artwork and photography I did with her while she was around, you know. It's really a trip because at the end, before she was taken and put into a witness protection program, I said, "Shay, please call me sometime and let me know you're okay." And, you could barely, she talked like this, again. she's like, so it's like, she was one of the most pre-programmed person that ever the CIA ever did anything to. She was in a train crash and put into a military hospital, and they did the most MK Ultra implantation on anyone. They thought they killed her, but someone snuck her and put her in an art colony, and that's where my friend met her. So we would bring her over and give her props and said we start shooting, and she would trigger, and something would come out that we didn't plan, and we would look at each other like, "Whoa, I can't believe it." You know, and we caught it all. We did a whole video called the Triggers compilation. But anyway, yeah, that was just the weirdest 10 years of my life. You know, I still grieve, you know, when I think of Eric, because he was such a brilliant artist, man.
Yeah,
but
sure.
So
yeah, I recommend people look up those videos, because there's some really interesting videos on YouTube of Shay St. John. Some really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it started out in the MySpace and the Live Journal era, you know, and she had a site, and people remember that. And then she had her weird little website, which comes from like 2000. You know, it's like very archaic but hilarious. And they keep trying to put it back up and maintain it, but people keep taking it down. People are really horrified. I remember when Happy Turkey Day was the first video I ever saw, and that made me want to get a hold of Eric but Happy Turkey Day was screened at the huge theater. What was it called? Lamel. I don't remember what theater, but I was there for the screening opening. It was only 14 minutes long, and they banned it because it was too disturbing. And really, there's no blood, sex, or anything. It's just disturbingly funny, and people just got really offended. It was hilarious. Yeah,
definitely performance art that I think was ahead of its time. I think if it was released today, I think it would be accepted much more than it was when it was released. Just ahead of its time.
There's endless articles on her, like just, I mean, because she was like, she thought she was famous. She thought she was a movie star.
Yeah, and
she had like sad save abused dolls. She collected abused dolls, and I mean, like, it's so deep, you know. And but it was really, really amazing. And you know, me, the owner of the California Institute of Abnormal Arts, it was perfect, you know, for the time, and still kind of is. But
was she in witness protection?
Well, she got really famous because of the triggers we did, and they found out that she was still alive, and the good people in the 3-letter organization grabbed her and hit her because they didn't want her to be killed. So I know and this is the trip. Now, this is 3 years after Eric died. I got a phone call in the middle of the night from a restricted line, and I'm like, I never answered that. I go, hello, and I heard hello again, and I go, okay, Shay, what's the word? I told her a word to say to me so I would know it was her. And she said it. I'm like, ah. And she goes, I go, are you okay? She goes, I'm okay. And it was click, and that was it. So I know she's out there somewhere and she's okay.
Wow.
So far. Yeah. So that was really, really, I couldn't even sleep that night. I was so happy.
That's awesome.
But it would be weird if she came back because Eric's not around, you know, and it was his genius that was the one that captured all that stuff, you know, on film and stuff. So yeah, very strange night. But I've been working on a script by the way, I did the Jeffrey Dahmer Part 2. I wrote the script. I'm almost finished with it.
Really?
Yeah, it's the prison years.
Oh, okay.
And he became a Christian in prison.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Not many people know that.
Tom and I, you know, we're in Milwaukee, and
I know you are. I know you were there. You were working at where? When
I was working at a video store when that Dahmer thing happened, and when the film came out, and you know, when that Dahmer movie came out, there were so many people upset. Like it made the local
movie.
Yeah, your movie.
Oh, people went nuts.
People were so upset. But
I know. I mean, like, come on. Every single serial killer gets a movie, you know.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. That movie, we couldn't keep it in stock for years.
Wow.
For years, it was always rented. People were stealing it. We had to tapes. It was so crazy.
It just got to put into the American archives.
Really?
They archived it. I couldn't believe it. I was so honored that they did that. But what I did was when we first interviewed with Hollywood Reporter and we announced that we're doing it, I said I was shooting it in secret. And my fax machine, you know what that is, right? Yeah. Back then, my fax machine exploded in 1 month. There were so many faxes coming in. And I learned that from an old filmmaker I used to, knew, and he, Mr. Exploitation, just tell everyone you're doing it in secret and you'll freak everyone out. And I did that, and like it did. And then I got calls from CNN, everywhere. Everyone wanted to know about it. So it was really hilarious. But we were very low budget, but we got better reviews than Jeremy Renner's film. From once again, what's his name from the LA Times? Really, really, really amazing. And it wasn't reviewed very well till later, till the shock wore off. Because we did our movie while he was still in court. We were shooting while he was still in court. So that was kind of jumping the gun on everybody. That's fascinating that that little
my uncle Chris was dating the Flight for Life lady who went to prison after he got his head smashed with the broom handle.
Right.
And she said that you have to give somebody with a heartbeat CPR, but there was nothing left to give CPR to, so they just had a bag pumping on a bloody neck hole for like a couple hours.
Horrible.
And they beat him with a thin little broom handle that bad.
Yeah. Well, it gives you points in prison if you're in there for life and you murder a serial killer. Oh. It's a status thing. But the amazing thing about this, people say, oh, he didn't become a Christian. He took a Bible course that was suggested by his father. And he was so into it that he had the pastor who was doing the Bible course come down, and he talked to him for hours and hours and hours and for a series of months. And because he could not imagine that he could be forgiven for what he did. And people say, oh, it's a deathbed, blah, 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 it's worthless. No, it wasn't a deathbed, because he struggled with this for months. He goes, how could God ever forgive me? And it's like the thief on the cross, the thief on the cross, he committed horrible crimes all his life, but right at the moment he was dying, he always called it, that's a deathbed, and he's in heaven. She said, you will be with me today in heaven. So, but the trip is that after he accepted Jesus, he wanted to be baptized, and they wouldn't let him. So he contacted another pastor, came down, and they baptized him in prison. He thought that was very important, even though it's ultimately not important. If you don't have to be baptized to go to heaven, but still, he just was very adamant about it. And he was baptized, and 2 weeks later he was murdered. Yeah, so people are gonna freak out about this movie. So I'm getting it from a lot of sources of people that were there in prison, and the book the guy wrote about it, the pastor did, but I just spent 2.5 years writing my great uncle's story, my great uncle's history. My great uncle Jerry Crew. Google Jerry Crew Bigfoot.
No, I have to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now.
My great uncle named Bigfoot.
Really?
He is the first person to take a plaster cast in 1958 on Mount Shasta. My father and my other uncle were there logging the forest in Mount Shasta. This is 10 years before the Patterson Gimlin film that they shot him walking, the Bigfoot walking. My great uncle drew the map that went through Bob Titmus that got into the hands of Gimlin. That he had the map from Jerry Crew, and they knew where to go to get that film. And like I decided, well, I'm the writer in the family, so I'm going to write this into a screenplay. No one's ever done a really big Bigfoot movie. There have been attempts and stuff, but I wanted to strip away all the legend and get to the real truth. And I interviewed everyone that was still alive. My uncle Jim, he'd been collecting articles on Jerry and everything else for 40 years. He gave me all these yellowed newspaper articles all about Bigfoot, and stacks of magazines like Argosy and all these things are in. And I went through all that, and I got to interview Peter Burns. He's 96 years old. He used to hunt the Yeti in the Himalayas. And there's so many hilarious characters. Peter Burns, he was hired by Tom Slick, a multimillionaire from Texas, really extravagant guy. He hung out with Howard Hughes and everything. And he hired my great uncle to hunt Bigfoot with my other uncle for 2 years. And then there's Ray Wallace, the guy who faked the prints and everything. And I mean, just there's so much. And I got it all together. It took 2.5 years. I wanted to make sure the family was okay with what I was doing and everything. Everyone okayed it. So, yeah, I just finished it a couple months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. It's not a demon. It's not supernatural. You know, they don't leave big old piles of poo in the forest. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So that was a big deal. Yeah.
So your uncle had the map to where a Bigfoot lived.
He drew the map. That's right where his logging
made
area was, and he was taking prints all over the place. I mean, he's the first person who went into the town to this taxidermy place, and there was a guy named Bob Titmus. I love that name, Titmus. And he was a taxidermist. He taught him how to do a plaster cast. So when he was back out, he was really pissed when he saw these prints the first time, my Uncle Jerry. He's like, what? Someone's punking me. This is fake. And then he saw that they went off everywhere, and they went down these ravines that you couldn't get to because they're very steep. And it's like, there's too many of them for us having somebody to fake. Also, when they took the print and took the plaster cast, the weight of whatever made that print was so deep that the plaster showed dermal ridges. Okay, dermal ridges. So you saw the actual skin, print. Now the fake prints that Ray Wallace stomped around, they have no dermal ridges. They look like a surfer's print. It's hilarious, and you see the two, and it's obvious. But it's just, wow, it was such an amazing, hilarious thing to go through. And I got to interview Peter Burns a bunch of times, like 3 times. And man, the tales I got out of him, amazing. So, yeah, I'm really happy about that.
Wow. You're going to have to do the big paranormal Bigfoot circuit then.
Well, I already have been about seven podcasts about Bigfoot. I did one from London. I've been on many of them, actually. But Bigfoot's not paranormal. People go, well, I saw Bigfoot. And then I saw it again, and it was 10 feet to 50 feet down the road. How could they get there? Well, it must be true. No. They come in packs. So you see one pop up, goes down. You see another one. Oh, you think it's the same one? It's not. Yeah. So it's understanding how they, and I believe they're human. I don't believe that they're missing link or anything like that. They're human. If you know anything about evolution, there's 2 types of evolution. There's macro and micro. Macro evolution, there's no evidence of it. That's where species actually change into another species. And, the leading evolutionary scientists, even though there's no evidence, only like Lucy and the Nebraska Man, and and they all turned out to be the tooth of a pig, and they built this whole thing around it. It was totally fake. And even though there's absolutely zero evidence, they will not recant it. It's like a religion, because by recanting their belief in evolution, they've let a defined foot in the door, and they will not acknowledge a god or an intelligent designer. So that is why they do that. But microevolution is the adaptation of species. So you have dogs over here in the cold that are a little hairier. They're a little different over here because of the weather and the environment and everything. And in the 1700s, there were earthquakes so big that the Mississippi ran backwards. They were so big in Oregon, huge mountains fell and blocked rivers. And like back then, there was no radio, TV, nothing. I mean, these Indians were like, freaking out, running to the woods. And I believe that because of so many people were killed, and there was a lack of, the breeding was really inbred, and slowly they became attuned to living in the woods, and we have our Bigfoots. I really believe that. And there's a lot of evidence. In fact, Gimlin, right? The guy from the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
He himself in an interview said he had a gun when they shot that. He goes, why didn't you shoot it? He goes, it was too human. It was way too human. I'm not going to shoot it. If it came at me like I was going to kill me, I would shoot it, but it was too human. No way. So that just, bam, that's another beautiful,
Well, and then a lot of the hair samples that come back like mostly human DNA, so they think it's contaminated.
Well, yeah, it's so funny because there's a lot of fakes too. I mean, like that Bob Titmus guy. There's so many great stories. I found such dirt on these people. It was great. And this one guy, Bob Titmus, he kept, well, look at that. That's a baby Bigfoot there. And then my uncle and Peter Burns were like, that's a bear claw. But he's like, no, that's a baby Bigfoot. He would take a copy of that and send it to the guy in Texas. Yeah, this is a baby Bigfoot. And it's like, oh, man. And later on, he was doing moose taxidermy, and he sent some moose hairs to him, saying, this is the hair of a Bigfoot. So there's all kinds of crap you got to cut through. And that was my goal, was to take all the garbage, strip it down to the real truth about what Bigfoot is. And that's what I did. So we'll see what happens. I got a couple of meetings about it, so we'll see.
Well, then how come there's, what's your theory on Bigfoot being all over the world? Different types.
Well, what do you mean? I mean,
well, you were saying like Oregon has this and like one species in
they're
this
all over
area.
America.
But...
They're all over America. And they're literally every country has some kind of, wild man. They used to call them wild men. And it's not, beyond the scope of belief to, with natural disasters, having people go crazy and go in the woods and live like wild people. I mean, that's been documented for hundreds and hundreds of years. And when Ray Wallace died, he says, well, there it goes. That's the death of Bigfoot right there. Because he's the guy that did the stamps, and he's Mr. Bigfoot. And this goes back hundreds of years. It was absurd to do that, So someone asking, but if Bigfoot were human, don't you think we would caught one? Who knows? They are attuned to a different level because they're so incredibly in sync with life in the forest and how how it to survive in the forest. I mean, that's like hardcore. You have to be very, very clear about what you're doing and where you are, and you have all kinds of problems going on all around you. Like the different things that could attack you, whatever. Who knows? Yeah, it is a wonder that they haven't caught one yet. But there's enough evidence now, and there's actually recent sightings, and they keep coming. So the whole thing about the somebody said, oh yeah, well, that Patterson Gimlin, that was a big suit. Somebody, and even Ray Wallace said that was my wife in a suit. It's like he was such a liar. This guy, he owned the company that did the logging, and he talked about UFOs and Bigfoots and everything. And he one time Peter Burns and Tom Slick came to town, the millionaire that was funding everything, and they said they're going to meet Ray Wallace at this Willow Creek Inn. So they met him there, and he walks in and he goes, I have a baby Bigfoot. And Tom Slick goes, really? And he goes, yep. Where is it? It's at my place. So how much do you want for it? He goes, $25,000. This is back in the 58, and he's like, okay. He fills out a check, writes a check for 20, money, and puts it on the table. And the guy reaches for it. He goes, slam. You got to bring it. And oh, okay. Well, I'll bring it tomorrow. And so they met the next day, and he came in all sheepish. Oh, I got sick, so I had to let it go in the night. I mean, just hilarious stuff, just crazy stuff. So there's a lot of shenanigans that you have to cut through. Now, my great uncle was a Sunday school teacher. He wouldn't stay on the site. He would go home to teach Sunday school to the Hopi Indians every week, and he didn't drink. They all, didn't mix with him because he didn't drink. He wasn't drinking. So he was a very, very. In fact, everyone I talked to said he was the most reliable person they knew back then. He was very, very. They believed every word of he said. So anyway. Family history. I've heard it all my life, so I said I'm the one who's got to put this down. So I did, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Let's change up gears. I want to talk about the French tickler.
Oh my!
That just it fascinates me that you have the body of
Achille Chatouillet.
Achille Chatouillet.
Yeah,
tell us the history of him.
Well, 25 years ago, a freak show family came and did a show. And we were talking afterwards. Yeah, we have the Circus Ranch, and we're always on the road. And, our great uncle's on the Circus Ranch. I'm like, bring him down. I'll put him in my museum. Hundreds of people will see him. And they did. And it took about 8 months to get him down there. But he's been down here for 25 years. And he's got a centerfold in the Ripley's hardback book in 2018. And anyway, he was a drunken mess. He died of chronic nephritis in 1912. drinking too much. He did a week in the Great London Circus. I have one of the playbills from the Great London Circus, and they kicked him out. And his last request was that he would always be on display. So his family had him hermetically sealed in clown makeup, and he put him in a Shriners Parade outfit from the first Shriners Parade in 1906 in Detroit, and sealed him in this casket.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, if you go to our Facebook page, Facebook CI Abnormal Arts, if you can find it, there's a clip. We do a memorial service for him every year. And whenever the family comes into town, it always changes. But we had his casket on the stage. This is 25 years ago. And people were performing in his honor. It was very somber. And a guy got up and played taps, and a clown came up and cried. And a magician gets up on the stage, and he did some juggling, because he loved juggling, and he did it terribly, but thought the counts. And then he pulls out a case and sets it on the stage and unzips it, and out jumps a live rabbit. And the rabbit jumps up on a stool, leans into the microphone, and says the closing benediction like a black preacher. Amen. Freaked everyone out. You can see that clip. It is hilarious. What it really was a trick microphone that leaked yogurt, a trained rabbit that comes up and goes, and I'm backstage going, hallelujah, dear Lord. Yeah. So it was so funny. We do something like that every time they come back. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. He was a great magician too. He had a rabbi out of a hat. He had the talking rabbit. His name was Bruce Block. He's in Vegas now, but all these people, we did the Dead Puppet Society here for 10 years. The most outrageously incredible puppeteers I've ever seen, really messed up. One of them was from Scott Land from Team America, the movie Team America. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he performed here for years. And actually, when I went to the Magic Castle and I met Carl Ballantine, Scott did a puppet of Carl Ballantine doing his magic act, and literally has the recording of him doing it. So you hear Carl Ballantine when he does his magic act as a puppet. It was amazing. And we did the puppet show here, and his daughter came down, who is one of the higher ups at the Magic Castle, to see it. It's fantastic. But these people are so famous now, I can barely get them back for anything, So actually, Scott Land has a school of puppetry in Vegas. You can go learn how to make a puppet in a 3-day weekend. Yeah, it's really amazing.
The Magic Castle has the best scam ever, because you can't get in. You have to. And since I can't get in, I want to.
Well, I got infamous on. I work with so many magicians. I got infamous on the internet because I used to tell people, just say this name and get in. And it got all around on the internet. Oh, just ask Carl the name of the people. I don't know if it ever got back to the Magic Castle, but people were asking all the time, and I know it's too many magicians there. But it's a cool place. I mean, it's a little sterile, but it's cool, man. I have so much fun when I go there. And we actually beat them out in a contest for some huge internet thing with the most outrageous adult entertainment, not naked, and it was between Magic Castle and us, and we won. I mean, like, what? I couldn't believe it. So that was in 2007. Yeah. Too funny. That was at our height of our circus time. We all recently went all ancient Chinese secret in our whole design. So it's all like wandering through the back alleys of Chinatown. Yep. Because I grew up in Chinatown, San Francisco, basically. And I have 2 dead bodies from 100 years ago. They're both Chinese magicians from San Francisco.
Whoa.
They're also in the Ripley's book. I have Fa Choi, who is embalmed with pure mercury. And he looks like it. Yeah. And he was a magician for opium dens in 1914 in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, when I was going to high school on this top of Nob Hill in a private school, and I used to drop down into Chinatown every day to get my fried wontons. And I met these incredible Chinese families. And one of them they just took me in like family, My name is Carl Crew, and they call me Klala Clue. And so, and I became friends, and they would cook and everything. They showed me the underground opium dens. They weren't being used, but they showed me. I got to go underground. It was amazing. And I always remembered they had one of their relatives in their place dead. It's a cultural thing. And years later, I said, you know what? I'm going all ancient Chinese secret here. Can I display him in my museum? Because, I have the dead clown. They go, oh, you pay first. No, I'm just kidding. They brought Fa Choi down, and he's in a case, and he looks terrible. He has 24 karat gold teeth, and he used to have a monkey for an assistant in the opium dens. I mean, can you imagine what kind of, you can get away with murder in an opium den?
Oh, yeah.
Or the bad act. Clap, clap. But he had a monkey for an assistant, and the monkey outlived him by 15 years. And when the monkey passed, they stuffed him, and I'm getting the monkey to sit right next to him.
Yes.
Little family affair. Yeah, he chopped up his own hand accidentally in an opium den magic show. Yeah, and they gave him a fake hand, and all the fake skin fell off it. So it's just
God,
weird story. Yeah, but
luck, you get a fake hand and that fake skin falls off.
Say it again.
That's just bad luck.
Well, it's 1914. Yeah, fake skin don't last too long, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the other dead body that you have?
It's Madame Wong. Oh, Madame Wong was a midget magician jewel thief.
Oh my God!
And I have the cover of San Francisco Chronicle. I blew up and framing and putting it in behind her that shows her being arrested at the Golden Gate Theater in 1913 in San Francisco for hypnotizing a whole crowd and ripping them off.
Whoa.
That black dragon heads used to hang in the theater and blow opium smoke on people, get them all stoned. She's come out and take your jewelry. And what happened was she stole this cross from this one guy, and he wasn't stoned yet. So he got up and got a cop. And then he came back in, and they witnessed her. She had borrowed the Lotus jewel from the De Young Museum in San Francisco, made it disappear in her act, and she never brought it back.
Yeah.
And she was arrested and went to prison and actually died in prison. And they got her body, and she's embalmed with ginseng and mercury.
Wow.
Tastes a little better.
Ginseng.
And she looks terrible too. Those two look terrible. The clown looks like you can still see nose hairs and ear hairs. He's hermetically sealed. These two are not. But she's holding the cross that got her busted. A little jeweled red cross. Now, what's even more mind-blowing about this display is that they brought down the Lotus jewel. Now, it turned out to be fake, and the museum was so embarrassed they had it fake on display, they did not prosecute. But she never knew it was fake. She died thinking she had stolen this jewel and hid it with the family. And so it's a really sad story. I know I have her magic posters going in and the cover of San Francisco Chronicle. But I just love the history. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Well, do you think she had to have opium tolerance if she was just going to get the whole theater stoned?
Say it again.
Did she have like an opium tolerance where if she got the whole theater stoned, she had to get stoned too a little bit?
I think she had little plugs that went in her nose.
Okay.
Like little bamboo plugs. I don't know. I'm guessing, but there was something about that because I did see a picture of her one time and it looks like she had some bugs, but I think they were little white papers that were shoved in her nose. I have no idea. I wish I could. That's a very good question. Very astute of you.
Yeah.
She looked good and terrible too, man. She looked really horrifying. Yeah.
Wow, you got the best body collection I know.
Oh man, I got a Hand of Glory from 1709 in Scotland, from Scotland. You know what that is? A Hand of Glory.
What is that?
In Scotland, like if you're a thief, they hang you and let you swing all night long on the moors. They'll come in the morning and your right hand's usually been cut off. And the peasants, they treat it with cinnamon, salt, and moonlight and put candle wicks between each fingers. It becomes what's known as a thieves' light. You can Google that. Hand of Glory, thieves' light. Huge history to it. And what it does is it gives you invisibility. So the one I have is really creepy. 1709, man. The fingernails look like teriyaki. It's insane. Yeah. But there's a lot of really scary history. I also have a very supposedly haunted painting.
Ooh, like Ghostbusters too?
Yeah, I don't, I'm very, very careful about my place. Papa don't take no mess. Yeah, if something's been used in a ritual, blam, right in the trash, baby. Yeah, I keep the place clean. I have 2 paranormal investigations. They couldn't find anything. They're mystified. Actually, one of them, they like, I can't find anything wrong. Uh-huh. That's right, child. You know, because I don't allow it. But one of them went backstage, this long hallway with they had a cameraman and this other girl and there's this woman from London, and they're going along this dark backstage. Don't turn around. There are 6 eyes staring at you from that corner, and they go, oh, they got closer now. It was a mirror ball, okay, in storage, yeah. But they came back out on the stage and there were orbs, and when you do ghost investigation, things follow you. So these were things that they've brought in with them. They cling to you. Yeah, I won't let anything like that stay here or anything. Yeah, but it's not good. There's no dead people that are haunting that house. You can call them interdimensional beings or demons, but the whole concept is that they want you to believe they're dead. They want you to believe, oh yeah, I have unfinished business, and blah 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 blah. You know, that's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, so I know too much about this stuff, and I kind of can help certain people that are trapped in that world. Yeah, so just weird, really cool stuff, though.
For sure. What's your favorite piece in your collection?
Let's see. Well, I do like the monkey's paw. Of course, it would be the head of Bigfoot, but it's a gaff.
Mhm.
It's fake. But that's when I go in to start talking about my great uncle, you know. Oh, I have the Spear of Destiny.
What?
Yeah. You know what that is?
Explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know what the
You
spear
do? What is it?
Well, it's the that's the spear that was used to make sure that Jesus was dead.
Very good. Yeah. That pierced the side of Christ. People
Yeah.
say, that's the spear that killed Jesus. No.
It was just to make
He
sure
was already dead.
he was already dead. Yeah.
And this is one of the 17 replicas that Himmler, who had the real one for Hitler, made from 2,000-year-old material. So no one would ever figure out which one was the real one. Why? Because the legend of the spear is you rule the world if you have it in your possession.
Yeah.
And there's 8 emperors traced to it: Frederick the Great, Barbarossa, Napoleon. Hitler was doing pretty good there for a couple months while he had it, but it fell from his hands. Yeah, there's a book called The Spear of Destiny by Trevor Ravenscroft, and he's an occultist, you know, so you have to kind of read through it, but he talks all about the deep occult connection with the Nazis. They were deeply involved in the occult. Himmler had the Wurzburg Castle and the Anarby. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it was they went all over the world like Indiana Jones trying to find these articles of power in the occult world that wielded, you know, like this spear that pierced the side of Christ had incredible power in the occult world. So they would, you know, try to harness these things and win the war. And actually, there's a book called The Reich of the Black Sun, which is about technology they got from demonic sources. And I mean, this is for real. I mean, there's the Nazi bell, which is a bell-shaped craft. It was one of the first spaceships. It hung over the concentration camps during the war. You know, you can Google pictures of it. There's a whole book on it and books on it. But you know, there's a lot of really all the rocket technology came out of nowhere, and what it was given to them from fallen angels, basically. And it's a wonder because Operation Paperclip was our modern day NASA. They kidnapped most of the Nazi scientists, and a lot of our technology came from Nazi sources. Yeah. So I love all this hidden history. Cool thing about the spear, though, is that the College of Surgeons did a study on it, and they know for sure that Christ did indeed die on the cross. Now, how do they know he died? Because when he was pierced, what came out?
Coagulation.
Coagulation still owe me $10. Tell it, give me my money. Mm-hmm. Blood and water, arterial. So for sure, they know he dead. dead. He didn't fake it. Hey, I'm back. He died. They know it.
Yeah.
Even though he was seen by hundreds of people 3 days later. Can I get an amen, brother? Yeah, people that were not they were not Christians, Roman historians, Roman people that had nothing to do with Christianity saw Jesus risen from the dead. Yeah. So will really crisp your mind later when you think about it was the number of prophecies that Jesus fulfilled from 300 years before. Hello, 349. I mean, one is impossible. Child will be born in Bethlehem. Bing. I mean, one's impossible. I'm talking 349 here. Okay. The Jews are like, okay, it's the Sabbath. Let's just break their legs and get them out of here. They went and broke the legs of either thief on either side of the cross. Pierced Jesus. Oh, we don't have to break his legs because he's already dead. Ding. 349. Not a bone shall be broken. From 300 years before. That's going to mess you up later. Yeah. Because actually, Jesus Christ is the biggest mystery of all. You better ask somebody. I love all this tech. I love all the history of that. Very, very dark stuff from the Nazis, though. Really, really dark.
Yeah. How'd Hitler lose the spear?
Say it again.
How'd Hitler lose the spear?
Oh, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, a lot of things, were moved around and stuff. I have no idea. I mean, they had giant caches of stuff they stole all over the world. I mean, they're still finding big, giant, caches of art and treasures and everything. And they were just raping the whole world of everything. So
yeah, but if that helped me rule the world, that would be my walking stick everywhere I go.
But there were other things too that they thought that. See, that's the thing is like ultimately God's in complete control. So no matter how much they think they are control, God's like, He's in total control. Every breath, everything that happens, he allows it to happen there's a specific reason. But yeah, it's really cool though. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know. So they made a bunch of replicas,
17,
shook them all up, and then just handed them out.
They just want to make sure that no one got the real one. There was supposedly a secret mark on it, and obviously I'm not ruling the world, so I couldn't find any mark or anything. Yeah, so but I just love the history. Now I'll tell you a really cool story about this is that if you go on YouTube, there's a guy named Ron Wyatt, and he was an archaeologist from America, but he was very highly praised in Israel because he found Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. He found it, and they documented it. You can see a video. They found it. Okay. Then he found Sodom and Gomorrah. He found the calcified cities with the balls of sulfur that rained down. He found all that, and he also found where the Red Sea split in half, where Israel could walk across and get away from the Egyptians. They dove into the sea and found a trail of broken Egyptian chariots with their skeletons of horses and everything. That's when the sea closed in on the whole army. They found all that. So he was highly, highly respected in Israeli archaeologists, and he was walking by this place in Israel and he pointed his finger. He goes, we have to dig here. We have to dig here. And I'm like, okay. And it was a garbage dump, but it was really Jeremiah's grotto. And it was the side of a mountain, and there was like a train station right next to it, and it's just, it's totally forgotten. And they started digging, and he had a group of people, kids and stuff, and his son, and they would break through and find another little tunnel and break through. It took like 3 or 4 months, but things kept happening. Like Indiana Jones, like, people running scared. It's like, like weird stuff was happening. And they were just about to break into the last area, and his son got sick, and he had to send him back to America. And he had one kid left with him, and they broke through this last little tunnel, and the kid freaked out and ran. So he was the only one that went into this chamber that held all the furniture from the Temple of Solomon. And they had the what was it called? It's the altar of the way bread, the altar of the incense, the giant candelabra thing. And it's the Ark of the Covenant was there. And he was blown away, and he was like, he didn't know what to do. And he was just looking at everything. And it wasn't until he died a few years later that a reporter came to him and said, yeah, you're about to die. You're about to go see God. You're going to confess right now. You didn't find the Ark of the Covenant. He goes, well, now because I'm dying, I will tell you what happened. And he said that when he was in there, two angels appeared to him and said, this is reserved for a later time. You cannot take this. And they said, check this out. Look up. And he looked up at the top of the cave, and there was a crack in the ceiling. And then they showed him the top of the ark, and there was blood that dripped on the mercy seat of the ark. And later on, he traced it, and it went right up to where Jesus was crucified, Golgotha, the hill where the cross was put in the top of the hill. When Jesus died, everything went black, and there was an earthquake. And the ground rent open in big cracks. And when he was pierced with the sword, blood ran out and ran through the cracks, through the entire mountain, and landed on the mercy seat. You can't write this. And so they said, take a sample of this. So he took a sample of the blood, and he took it to Israeli scientists, didn't tell them what it was. And he said, yeah, please analyze this. And they did, and they came back and goes, what is this? And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, there's only female chromosomes. Where's the male chromosome? Divine birth. Hello again. Yeah. And then he said, they said, well, we need to know what this is because the blood is still alive. And he goes, it's the blood of your Messiah. Yeah. And you can see that interview on YouTube. My brother actually got to meet him before he died. There's 3 or 4 interviews of him, and he tells that whole story. It's amazing. And so I love all that stuff, man.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Make it amen.
Amen.
No, but kind of go back to Sunday school. Come on. So anyway,
that's great.
We have the what else do we have? So many things. Let's see. Well, I have Octopus Girl, and I have of course the Arm of Claude Laroche. You know about that, right?
No, explain.
No, I don't.
Oh my! This was on Ripley's with Dean Cain. This was on the TV show. It's a human arm in a shrine from 1918. And that was a big, long story. You can actually go to our page and see a little clip of it on Ripley's, and he tells some of the story. What I didn't tell them is it's supposedly cursed if you photograph it. And oopsie, they're off the air. Oopsie. But there's a big, long story. He was a French nobleman. His wife was a singer. And she wouldn't sing during World War I, but when the war ended in 1918, oh, now sing. And she got on the Paris Opera stage and slipped and broke her neck.
Oh my God.
He freaked out and shoved his arm right through a window in shock. And they had to amputate his arm. But instead of throwing it in the trash, he enshrined his own arm. So this is the shrine of the Arm of Claude Laroche. It's it's been here for 25 years. I know the daughter was the only living relative, and she just doesn't care about the family or anything. So I got 25 years ago and put it in here. It was one of the second artifacts we ever put in. Yeah, but you can see that clip on
That is just a weird story. His wife wouldn't sing. She sang. Slipped,
she wouldn't sing because of the war.
Yeah,
because of the war. It was a
She slipped, broke her neck. He got all upset, punched it through glass, and then put it in a shrine.
Well, yeah, they amputated his arm, and he didn't want to throw it in the trash, so he enshrined his own arm. He was very eccentric. Yeah, very eccentric. Yeah, I think I got a great old tintype picture of him, and there's a thing where you can leave something and get a wish in 24 hours, and I got like 25 years worth of stuff people have left, and there's rules. So like the first rule is you have to be Chinese.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, the first rule is whatever you leave, it has to come from you. You cannot borrow it. And the second rule is you can never verbalize what you wish for ever. And in 25 years, I've never heard of anyone not getting their wish. But supposedly some people have gotten in some accidents when they've left after they photographed it when they weren't supposed to. I had a booker here that got in a horrible accident. I can't tell you that that's what it is,
Yeah.
It's all about how much your imagination conjures stuff up. You know what's really cool is when people would make a wish. I had some fake firecrackers that would hang in there, and I could press the remote button and they'd pop. You know, oh, that's a terrible wish. It was scared the crap out of people. It was hilarious. Yeah. But, I give tours. I give a tour. Since the pandemic, we've been doing a lot of movie shoots. We haven't been open for almost a year. Yeah. And we just do private tours and a lot of movie shoots. And the tour costs $200, you know, between 5 and 10 people, but you get some drinks, and it takes an hour and a half to get through all the history. And our final thing is we have the skeleton of Elephant Man that was donated to the club. Wow. This is not the original one but it's an anamorphic 3D rendering of the bones from London. It was done for the Broadway play with David Bowie, and I know the producer, and he donated it to the club. It's actually right behind me on stage. You see it now? Let's see. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the last thing I show people before I give them their smelling salts. Yeah.
Yeah, hour and a half. That you must have so much stuff that if people want to take the tour again just to remember everything.
Well, some of my friends are so funny. They come back and they take the tour, and then they jump in on the punchline. It's like, okay, it becomes a comedy act. It's very funny by that. Yeah, there's always some people always come here and say, "Well, I never saw that before. I never saw that before." Yeah, because there's so much stuff everywhere, you know. So I'm literally thinking about moving to Vegas, the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah, so I haven't made any decisions yet, but I found a place, and it's an old bank with vaults. You know, it'd be perfect for the auditorium. So I have no idea, but we'll see. But
freak out the moving company, though.
What's that?
You'll freak out the moving company.
Oh yeah, I don't care. I love that. I'll keep them entertained with stories. But I wrote Blood Diner too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
25 years later, it's a sequel. It's what happened. It's like Blood Diner ends, and then 25 years later, Rick and the two brothers are still alive, raised back to life by Sheetar. And it was so outrageous when I wrote it, I had to put it down. And then I picked it up and go, "What are you talking about?" And I kind of finished it. And we're going to try to get it over to Lionsgate and see what they think, but we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, Tom is the fast. What Tom was a medical student. He was the fastest cadaver skinner in his class.
Oh, skin a human faster than you would guarantee it.
I don't know why I had to tell every guest that.
I should have hired you we did long pig barbecue for a while here. I should have hired you for that. Yeah. We had a whole thing called Long Pig Barbecue Midnight. And we sold like pork, but man, people go, "You did the Jeffrey Dahmer? Is this really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, right." Yeah, but you actually skin them?
Yeah, well, you got to remove the skin and get the muscles out and everything.
And this is for what purpose?
Oh, just a hobby. No, it's I was in medical school.
So, but I mean, it was done so you could
memorize the muscles and see how everything worked.
Yeah, exactly. I got a lot of morticians that bring me down little skeletons where they piece the muscles together, and it's all about learning how when I lived at the mortuary, we had a coroner's call. We did coroner's call every other month, so I saw the worst things you could ever imagine. I mean, I think the worst thing I ever saw was we went out to get this guy who'd been dead in a park in the hot sun for 2 weeks, and they wouldn't even let me go kid him. The other two went and got him in a bag and brought him back, and we got in the call car, and it was like, "Woo, baby, oh hey, you know, anybody got a Tic Tac, you know?" And we got him back and we put it on the slab, and they opened up the thing, and I looked in. No horror movie has ever done this. It was a seething bag of maggots in the shape of a man, and I'm like, "Ah!" And the coroner looks at me and goes, "Just don't think of it as human." And I said, "Okay," and it worked for the moment. You know, of course, I had the orange stuff under my nose in a second, but that was the worst thing I've ever seen. You know, actually, when I was working at the mortuary, my business partner Robert, that we were both morticians, we used to go hiking in Muir Woods, Mount Tam, you know, And we'd be up there hiking around, and we're going up this one trail, and there's this weird guy at the top stomping around like insane. Like, I'm from San Francisco. It's like, okay, whatever, just keep going. You're used to all these kooks. And we got closer to this guy, and he looked at us and he waved us back with a gun. I said, mm-hmm. And we ran down to the parking lot, and we got on something called a payphone, which no one knows what that is, but it was a payphone in the parking lot. I called the cops, and I said, there's a guy up here with a gun. They go, yeah, okay, we're coming down, And some girl ran by me, and I go, don't go up there. The guy has a gun. She goes, yeah. And she went up there, and we heard bang. And this was the last victim of the Trailside Killer. Now, our mortuary ended up burying her body. And there's a book called The Sleeping Lady, which is about the Trailside Killer. And on the back of the book is my business partner with two other morticians pulling her out of the bushes. That's on the back of the book. It gets weirder. During the service, we had the killer knew she was being buried at our mortuary. And he kept driving by the mortuary during it. And the reason we know that is because one of them spotted his personalized license plate. And it turns out, when we found out what the license plate was, we had seen this all over the place. We had seen this in the hearse picking up bodies in San Francisco before we came over to Novato. And I remember seeing that guy's DJ Carpenter right in front of me. And like he was following us, or it turned out this guy lived 2 blocks from my business partner in Twin Peaks, and tried to sell him some pot one time. But we could have been killed, man. It was like, whoa, that was really
Why do you think he waved you back?
Because he wanted a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, he liked women. Yeah. So really creepy. There's just a million times where I probably got killed in San Francisco. I didn't realize how a dangerous town. I was like, wow, we were crazy, man. We go out and like a bunch of us crazy actors, we get all dolled up in these 40s outfits. You could, when it was cool to go to Salvation Army before anyone knew about it, and buy gabardine suits and fedoras, and it looked like a film noir movie. And all the chicks had these weird, cool cocktail dresses from the 40s, and we all got fake IDs, and we go out to the bars. It's 17 years old. Look, here's my ID. And but there's so many times, like when, in fact, my best friend, one of my good friends as a kid, Ingo, his younger brother was the last victim of the Zodiac Killer, Norman Bodwin. And I was actually called into Coast to Coast when I saw a whole article on this, that he was stabbed in a Petrini's in Stonestown, which is 2 blocks from my house. It was a market that was, during the time they just kept it really dark in there for some reason. It was just the design. But he was stabbed right in the aisle, just horribly. And they believe they traced it to the Zodiac Killer. It was like, and then I have to go play Jeffrey Dahmer. Thanks a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a
so
crazy stories. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, we can't hang out with you. Everybody ends up getting killed by somebody famous.
Oh, yeah, it's too late. You're already dead. No, I'm kidding. No, we managed to meet a lot of people here at the club. That was the cool thing about this club, is I got to talk to thousands of people, and we had a lot of cool people come down. Elvira did a show here. I gave a tour to Axl Rose one night. My friend of mine became his keyboard player when the band broke up, and he toured all over South America. He showed up after we closed down with Axl, like, can we get a tour? Like, okay. I gave a tour one time to CeCe DeVille, and he was really scared. And it was like, I'm scared of you. Okay.
You ever get a guy like Axl Rose go like, give me $50,000 for that dead Chinaman?
No, but I did have the body of Alligator Boy in a case. And it was, I used to be a mortician. It was not a fake. It was the shape of a man with an alligator head and alligator hands, and laid out in a casket, like a glass casket. And David Copperfield bought him from me. And that was the only thing I stole, because I was like, he wrote me a check.
He's a creepy guy.
It's in his museum in Vegas now.
Copperfield is a creepy guy. I met him a couple of times.
Oh, yeah?
He's in Milwaukee. Yeah, he's a creepy. He always gave me really creepy vibes.
My father actually stood up at one of his shows and was brought on stage or something back in the day. It's so funny. Yeah, he's I knew this antique dealer that used to come up to San Francisco and buy neon clocks from me, and he ran this place called Off the Wall on Melrose, the coolest antiques you've ever seen. I've known him for like 35 years, and he does business with David Copperfield all the time, So, and actually Scott Land knows him really well too in Vegas too. So, yep. I do love magicians though, but he gave you a creepy vibe.
Yeah, he did. I met him when I was a kid. When he would come into Milwaukee, my dad would introduce me.
Cool.
I got to meet a lot of magicians, but
what other magicians did you meet?
Blackstone, Harry Blackstone.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, he was
incredible.
He was one of my favorites. Penn and Teller.
Yeah, my friend, we did a show called The Sentimentalists, and it was Chris Mysterian and this beautiful, ravishing lady. I forget her name. She's so gorgeous, and they went on after they did their show here, which was one of the best shows we ever had, packed the place. They went on Penn and Teller and fooled them.
Nice.
Yeah, they fooled them. And Chris Mysterian, The Sentimentalists, and yeah, that was just one of the most amazing magic shows we ever had. Yeah, I love magicians. I don't care. I mean, I don't like when they get all creepy and weird and start doing witchcraft stuff though.
Yeah.
Got to draw the line, Charlie, man.
You got to draw the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was never into that kind of stuff. My dad was more like stage illusions. Yeah. He didn't do a lot of close-up stuff. He did big stage illusions.
I love stage illusions. Yeah, I love that. I love the just being from a theater background, anything that's over the top is like, yeah, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I think too.
I got big hands. I could never do close-up magic, like I was a magician since I was 13. My father blew my mind and took me out to a magic store as a kid. And I just blew my mind. He bought me a bunch of tricks. You're a magician now. I go, great. And so I doing birthday parties and stuff. And actually, the first film I ever made was me doing my magic show for him on Super 8. And I used my sister for an assistant. And I did the whole bewitched thing where I make her disappear. Ding! We'd stop and she'd get out of the way. It's like, stupid stuff like that. But it's so funny because one time I shot her jumping in the air. And then she disappeared in the air. But then I showed her crying on the ground because it hit too hard. I showed it, for a second. And what I did was I snuck it into her friend's movie night when she was like 12 or 13. And they showed it for everybody. And she was so horrified. I never saw the film again.
No.
So like something happened to it. Yeah. So it was pretty funny. I wish I could find that. That was cool.
Oh, all right. Well, I think we're all out of time. It's been
you shut your mouth, Carl. Okay.
Wild conversation.
We gotta have them back. I think there's a ton more here.
We're gonna have to do a part 2.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. It's a pleasure talking.
Awesome.
Yeah. Check out the CIA, the California Institute of
Abnormal Arts.
The Abnormal Arts.
Abnormal.
Check it out on Facebook. Check out Blood Diner too. Lionsgate just released a new Blu-ray of it. It's an excellent movie. You got to check it out. And get The Secret Life of Jeffrey Dahmer too. That's another
Blood Diner page on Facebook, and also Jeffrey Dahmer's The Secret Life. That page is on there with the whole archived version of the Maury Povich show. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have you back for a part 2.
My pleasure, you guys. It was a pleasure.
That's great.
Thanks.
Let me get